Thank you, folks. And what we shall do is let's start with a very simple round of introductions, very single line about you, about the company, and whether your enterprise is a digital first, digital only, physical first, physical only, never ever digital. What kind of an enterprise?
Hi, I'm Richa Gupta. I'm from Wow Skin Sciences. We are a digital first brand. Let me first start by introducing myself. I've been with Wow for just about 2 months. I lead their innovation charter. I'm the Vice President Innovation. I come with 16 years of beauty and retail experience. I was with Amazon for this for about 5 years. Wow Skin Sciences is a digital first brand. For most part of our journey, we were only digital. It's only recently that we've also moved into the physical world. So now we are a digital and physical brand. No, SIS. So both GT and MT, but not own stores as yet.
Not own stores as yet.
As yet.
Okay, fantastic. JP?
Hello everyone, I'm JP Mishra. So basically, I'm from a company called Newland AIDC. So we are kind of a technology enabler for many D2C brand, B2C brand, and many other. We spread across. In each and every industry we are working. I mean, though it is healthcare or B2, e-commerce, logistics. I mean, many other industries.
What are the products that you deal in?
So we are basically dealing in RFID technologies like barcode scanning, handle terminals. So these products basically, though we are an offline company, we are completely, our working style is in the physical world, but we enable people for digitally.
Okay, fantastic. Rithish?
Hello everyone. So I'm Rithish. I head engineering at redBus on the B2C engineering as such. redBus is into the bus booking space, the largest bus OTA in India, if not the world. The largest bus OTA definitely in India and as well as in Malaysia too. So we are in a few other countries as well. We are in Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia, and a couple of Latin countries. In the last year and a half, the Red brand, basically our vision is to be a super app for surface transport. And hence, we've also forayed into a couple of new categories. We have forayed into rail booking through a product called Red Rail and into intercity cab booking through a product called Ride. That's what it is.
And are you part of Make My Trip?
Yes. So all the three brands are part of the same group companies. Make My Trip India, Go Ibibo, and redBus are all part of the same group company.
Thank you, Rithish. Vikram?
Hi, I'm Vikram Idnani. I head technology at Landmark Group, Landmark for India. So Landmark's basically a group which has a set of retail chains. If you've seen Lifestyle, which is fashion and life, basically fashion and lifestyle. Max Fashions, again a fashion lifestyle for a different audience. Easy Buy, Spar, City Max, and Home Center, which is all home furnishings and furniture. So Landmark's basically been, actually before Landmark, I was at Reliance. So I'm at Landmark like a month or so old at Landmark. Prior to that at Reliance and Trent, all these three groups have been physical first, digital enabled. And now, pretty much everyone's, rather than say digital first or anything, they are all actually omni first, if you ask me. So anything that we're looking at is more omni-channel and enabled, and that's where we are. I think we'll talk a little bit more about the whole journey, etc.
Sure, thanks. Anil?
Hi, Anil from LuLu Group. We are largely into retail, malls, logistics, hotel industries, or the hospitality industry, and flight kitchens. I head the information technology for LuLu Group, India. And we are more physical first.
More physical first. And will it stay that way, or will you foray into digital in a big manner in some?
No, it doesn't stay that way always. Now that is both the worlds which are there.
Sure. Thanks. And of course, Yash, we started off without you, but I knew that you were coming.
Sorry, guys, for the
quick
delay.
word of introduction from you.
Sure. So, hi guys, Yash Bhatia from Licious. We are only meat brand, as we all know. Licious, we've been with Licious for close to 5 years now. Licious is It's not only a physical first, but we are present physically and digitally. But yeah, physically is something that we've started off very recently, and as we all know, we do all things meet.
So, Yash, staying with you, you started off as digital first, right? But what made you think about going physical, and how are you going physical?
Well, omni-channel is one of our growth strategies, right? So that is just a channel for us to ensure reach. As far as digital first is concerned, I think we can control experience in a much better manner. So that was one of our reasons to be digital first.
And what's your physical presence going to be like?
Sorry.
What is your physical presence going to be like?
Physical presence right now is we have our own stores. So that is where the entire range is available. Apart from that, we are also present with certain modern trade and general trade outlets with few of our products available. Yeah.
Okay. And so I know you're pretty new to WoW, but then I'm sure you have an insight in terms of how it's evolved. It's a mix of digital and physical, as you mentioned. So can you just take us through in terms of how was this journey conceived and why was it conceived in the manner it was?
So WoW is actually a very interesting digital story. WoW Skin Sciences started off with just one product, which was an apple cider vinegar juice. And we started by launching on Amazon.com, which is in the US. And it so happened that that product became really popular. And this was, like I said, it was a digital first company. So this was a bunch of founders for men at that point of time. They launched this product and they kept reading the reviews and ratings of the product on Amazon.com because it just became really successful. And what customers kept saying is that there are multiple uses of apple cider vinegar. It's very good for your skin, it's very good for your hair, especially it's very good for your hair. And that's when the idea came that why don't we use the ingredient and make it into a beauty product. And that's how apple cider vinegar, which is the first product of WoW, was born. So we launched a shampoo and conditioner of the apple cider vinegar ingredient in the US on .com, and it just became like an overnight success. And that was then the first product that we also launched in India. And that ingredient, even to date, which is almost about 6 to 7 years later, is almost synonymous to WoW having started it. And that's how we started. And that's pretty much remained the ethos of the company. So we are still a very, very digital first company. We are obsessed about what our customers are saying to us. So we have our own websites, but we're also very highly present across all marketplaces, Nykaa, Purple, everywhere. And so we keep listening to the customer and what the customer is saying, and most of our innovations come out of there. The product innovations are also all coming out of there because that's how we started.
And how do you listen to your customers? What are the modes of listening?
So we've got both. One is our own CS, which is the BuyWow website. We've got actually 3 portfolio brands. We've got a brand called WoW Skin Sciences, which does beauty and personal care. We've got WoW Life Sciences, which does nutraceuticals, so protein powder, omega tablets, and all of that. And we've got another brand called Body Cupid, which does body and bath. We have our own CS, in-house CS. There we're talking to customers. And the other biggest form of customer feedback, like I told you, is reviews on websites like Amazon. They're extremely rich. And since I am an ex-Amazonian, I also know that they allow you to also respond to customers. So if there's a question that a customer posts on even on an Amazon website, you as a brand can respond to it as an expertise, as an expert. And the most amount of engagement happens when you as a brand are actually responding, because it actually says responded or answered by the seller or brand. So a lot of credibility builds with the brand, with the customer, because the customer can see that you care enough to kind of respond on these websites. So that's the highest amount of engagement. Then we've got our own website where we're constantly talking to our customer and educating them on products.
Okay. And Vikram, you've been around for quite some time in the retail sector. So how have you seen customer engagement as an aspect evolve, both in terms of the demand that it puts on the brands, as well as the feedback that the brands receive from the customer?
Yeah, so I think brands have taken multiple kind of ways to listen to the customer and to engage. I think one of the old school kind of ways of working, which has evolved over time, is NPS. Okay, and I mean it's been old school, but it's continued, and a lot of brands have achieved a lot of success. I think success with NPS is the rigor with which you adopt it, the relevance of the questions that you pose and the actions that you take. So NPS is an important thing, and even at Landmark, actually they live and breathe by NPS. So I think that's a really important listening post for anyone. And of course, social media has been an important form of engagement on Instagram and Facebook and all of that stuff. But I think I won't talk much about it because I'm sure everybody is fairly aware about how much engagement happens on social media. I think other listening posts are, for example, to acquire customers, is the use of bloggers, okay, or influencers rather. A lot of brands have gone that route to actually engage with influencers and be able to acquire customers through that. So I think that's another form of acquiring and then engaging with customers through various other channels. So I think these are primarily the ways that which people are listening to customers. I'll maybe add one more, which is a simple thing, a platform like Twitter, which is a place where whenever anyone has a positive or a negative experience, it generally tends to come up as a tweet. That seems to be one of the most common platforms to kind of vent one's ire over something or one's kind of happiness over an experience. But there are some brands which are doing well in the sense they're listening on Twitter and responding. I think in line with what Richa just talked about, that you get a review and you respond to it, so that you're actually engaging. And I personally have had a few tweets with my names on them, on customer experience and stuff. And I've realized that once you respond to somebody in any form, and you're trying to make an attempt to assist them, they are very happy about things like that. So I think engagement through all of these channels is really important for any brand.
Sure. And Anil, coming to you, the LuLu group is, of course, into multiple industries, multiple verticals, as you mentioned. But if you were to just take malls, now, are malls just concrete spaces which houses brands, or are you looking at very actively engaging with customers who walk into malls, irrespective of which brand they finally buy it from? But is that a plan and program in mind that you have, wherein LuLu will then look at a consumer who walks into any mall and then deliver a strategy for engagement with them?
True, very true said. And it is now more like a marketplace for in any physical world, right? No matter where the person is buying it from, it's still a LuLu customer, right? He's walking into a LuLu mall. He's got that brand trust which is walking into. We make sure that the experience across brands inside the mall and in general as LuLu, as what we wanted to propose to them or what we want to get them through, we make sure that that's put into place at the top priority of it. How do we do that? We generally, it's a game which is largely played where you get the retailers with you in the journey, right? It's like, it's not just my customer, but it's your customer too. So let's join hands and just take that experience to the next level. So what I am doing, I will pass on to you. What you're doing, pass on to me. And let's have that seamless feel of it. It's like more, if I have to analog it to the, we were talking about online and offline and seamless channels, something of that sort, but from a marketplace point of view, mall as a marketplace and retailers as the sellers out there. So that's the journey which you're trying to do.
Excellent. And JP, when you worked with clients, when you worked with enterprises in the space, obviously the demand of certain kind of hardware or services from you is an indication of their strategic approach. So what have you actually seen from a supplier side in terms of how brands are managing customer engagement and experience in today's time?
So I'll tell you, I'm in this industry since more than a decade, and I've seen that the complete brands and buying behavior of the customers has entirely changed. I mean, it is dramatically changed since in last 4 or 5 years, and COVID was something which again completely changed the buying habits of many people.
You're talking of your B2B customer
No,
behavior
no,
or
for
B2C?
any brands I'm talking about. So as per my estimation, in last 5 years, there is a recent study saying 95% company has already moved to digital first world. I mean, they're digitally present in any form of channel, or they have multiple touch points for the customers. So what I've seen, now a lot of people who are, uh, there are many things which is primarily important. That is the most important thing is customer experience. So if you want to enhance the customer experience, you need to present digitally first. Okay, because starting from the, kind of a placing a order to getting the delivery, it's all like a customer experience. For example, I'm a customer. I'm ordering something from online or offline market. So what is my expectation? How soon what is the timeline I need? What is the kind of product I need? What is the kind of replacement? So all these things has to be tracked and traced very, very efficiently with the technology. So once the technology in the place, then the brands will also analyze the whole thing. What is the customer behavior? They can also put some kind of AI integration in that particular automation process, so they can understand what kind of technical enhancement required to get the customer experience more accurate. To get the more accuracy, I mean, they can also decrease their RTO and other things.
So, all that you're saying, I'm going to hold it against you when I ask you to develop a kind of a roadmap for enhancing customer experience for one of these brands sitting out here.
Correct.
Okay, of course, it's not binding, but then it's just trying to figure out as to what could possibly go in terms of enhancing customer experience. Coming to you, Rithish, redBus. I need to travel from, let's say, Delhi to Pilani. I kind of go to redbus.in and book a bus. What's so exciting about that journey? I mean, what is that part of customer engagement that keeps you excited as the head of engineering?
So one is, of course, as you say, essentially, once you have been, I mean, the brand has been in the industry for the last 15 odd years, right? So been that and that kind of a thing, right? But essentially, what keeps us, any person inside engineering occupy or basically be very, very emotionally connected to the ecosystem is about how people react to the travel experience, right? Otherwise, if you look at travel as compared to any product commerce, travel is a lot more transactional, right? So people come to the platform when they actually have an intent of traveling. It's not like you go on to any product commerce and you just scroll and then you browse through and you just buy, right? So there's a very, very high intentful based, and there's a very high intent of basically buying, right? So the whole thing that kind of keeps us on our toes is basically about how can you convert a shopper into a transactor, right? So that basically, what are the things that can actually bring into the ecosystem, which actually allows the decision making very, very seamlessly. Whether it's with respect to, say, our ranking algorithm, whether it is with respect to how we collect reviews and kind of surface it up upwards, or whether it could be in the post-funnel experience in terms of how we kind of solve problems in terms of solving customer queries, whether through bots or whether through customer experience and so on. That is something that kind of keeps us very excited. The other thing is largely is about whatever we actually put out, right? Because of the scale that we actually have, there is an opportunity to kind of impact lakhs of users as soon as we put the product into the market. So that is a kick that you don't necessarily get everywhere. So,
but how do you manage the discoverability aspect of things, right? Suppose I want to travel from A to B. There are multiple modes of travel. How do you make sure that redbus.in happens to be right up there? Because it's not just about bus travel, right? It's about travel from A to B. So how do you address that?
So one is basically, so there are multiple ways of discoverability, right? So one is probably the largest mode of discovery is probably through search platforms like Google and so on. So there is a conscious effort in ensuring that the pages that we actually have or the app views that we actually have are very highly indexed indexable, and also basically is very tuned to the algorithms or the SEO algorithms and the landing page optimizations that actually happen, right? So we work with Google very, very closely to ensure that our core web vitals are are the best, so that we rank up higher in the search results. That apart, there is of course always what you call a branding exercise that actually happens, which is to basically have the brand on the top of the mind. So the whole idea is that, again, because given that travel is an intent-based use case, probably you will actually have only 1 or 2 instances of travel in a year. So branding plays a very large role in ensuring that basically the brand is on the top of the mind when you actually have that intent in place. That's how it is. So it's a mix of both offline branding, trying to kind of put the brand in your mind, and then essentially when you search for something, and then you get the brand in the result, and then you basically do the connection, and then come back and do the transaction.
Yeah, perfect. And coming to you, Yash, Licious is in a category which was probably okay, it's a Sunday, let's go to the market and buy fish,
Yeah.
kind of a scenario. But then suddenly now you've come up with a website, very slick looking, and you can just order and sit back. So how did you when you started on this whole piece, right? What were your thoughts in terms of the customer experience aspect of it? Because all said and done, buying, apart from eggs, let's say buying fish or chicken or mutton for that matter, is a lot, I won't call it touch and feel, sounds a little gross, but otherwise it is a close, intimate affair in a certain sense. So how did you mitigate that risk in customer experience on your website?
Sure. So when it comes to meat, we are hypocrites, right? So, as a country, 70 to 75% of the consumers eat meat, but we don't behave like this. So, it's not true that consumers were buying only on Sundays, while it appears like this, because you see people buying on Sundays by and large, but meat is consumed throughout. There are specific days where there are flexitarians in the market who don't want to consume on certain days. Keeping that aside, when it comes to talking about how we build trust, I think apart from digitally and through communication, I think what was more important for us was to focus on the product, right? Because meat is one category which is built on trust, right? If you go back 20-25 years back, when we used to buy meat with our parents, it used to be just the trust that our parents used to have with that one butcher, right?
It's more like jewelry. I mean,
it is.
Value is different, but
It is, yeah.
the trust sense is almost similar.
Yes. So, when it comes to meat, as I said, trust was more of a factor. You can do whatever you want to digitally. You can communicate whatever you want to, XYZ, source from XYZ, place. It is not going to help till the customer does not see the product, living up to their expectation. Right. So I think, as I said, we were physical, and first and then digital. So that holds true. And as far as customer experience is concerned, digitally, again, there were, those small notifications that, that helped us, talking about where the product is sourced from. These are all additions, right? This is not primary. This is all secondary for the consumer. So, yeah, so coming back to the point, I think digitally it's not something that really helped us to build the brand. It's consumer centric. We've always been consumer centric with our approach as to what consumer wants. Digital is just a medium to control things.
But you really pointed out a very important aspect of customer experience, which is trust, which actually gets me to you. Cosmetics, again, touching the skin, very intimate. Trust again is a very important factor, right? So how did you manage that particular aspect of it? How do you manage trust? How do you make sure that trust as an element is extremely high for WoW, and hence customer experience remains at that level?
So, right, like I said in the beginning, right, trust comes from extreme transparency with the customer, and the space that we operate today, which is beauty and personal care, I think someone on the panel also mentioned, it's a very, very, firstly, the customer is extremely aware today because everything is available online, and we're living in the times when we are flooded with influencers, and they have become our modern age. Dadima ke nuske is all coming from influencers, and they are the word of trust because that's the only word that today's Gen Z actually believes, because they understand and they believe that they understand their language and they understand their world, right? So transparency is what we've gone for. So if you go into any medium that Wow sells through, whether it be our own website, whether it be Amazon or Flipkart or Nykaa, we put everything out there extremely transparently. So what's in the product, at what formulation levels. So we're selling, for an example, we're selling a vitamin C. We'll tell you whether it's 10%, it's 20%. We'll tell you how to use the product. So extreme amount of interaction, and I go back to what I was saying earlier, you keep talking to your consumers and that builds trust. There are a lot of times you put a product out and the customer does not like it. You've got to be extremely open to say, keep talking, listening to them, reformulate if that needs to be done, put the product out again. So extreme amount of transparency, exactly tell what your product stands for. How to use the product is a very important thing in our business for sure, because you can just be, it could be a perfect product, but you could be using it wrong. And just one thing to add, where we can go, besides what we are already doing, is this whole, and that's where he comes in, I think, is this whole digital, how do you make consumers buy beauty digitally, right? So right now we're just putting the product out. But imagine the amount of trust you could build with the customer if he or she, if they came on my website and I could actually use technology to read their skin type or read their hair type and actually customize the products that they should use. Right now we're leaving that responsibility to the customer. I'm putting all the products and I'm putting all the, this is for dry hair or dry skin or whatever, but I'm still passing the buck on to the customer to say choose and make your choice. I think what technology needs to do really quickly and catch up is customize it. You should be able to read my skin type and tell me what products are going to solve my problem.
Great. So I guess that's good, Richa, because that kind of slots into something called as conversational commerce. I don't want to call it conversational commerce, but it's about conversational engagement. And again, conversational engagement ties back into trust. Trust is experience, customer experience. And the last, till day before yesterday evening, I was thinking Twitter was the platform to go and shout your lungs out in case you're upset. But today I'm convinced it's Instagram. Because of the sessions that we've had on both the days, an incredible amount of work that's happening in that space, more so in terms of the ability of a customer to put across his or her point of view in more than one ways, right? It could be a video, it could be text, it could be a conversation, anything. Second is the speed at which a brand reacts. There was a major airline with whom I had a major grouse. I raised an issue, and they were kind enough to get back to me after I had taken the flight and gotten back home safely. Doesn't make any sense, right? Doesn't help me at all. But I guess with the onus on us, on brands, to drive the customer engagement piece, customer experience piece, trust coming in, it's about speed of reaction, right? So my question to you, Vikram, is when it comes down to speed of reaction, when it comes down to making sure that you are able to communicate, good or bad, I think consumers today are okay with bad, provided you tell them upfront saying, you know what, we messed up. We are sorry about it, we messed up, and they're okay with it. Now, in that sense, Vikram, do you see a difference in the way brands, let's say 5 years back, are kind of managing it vis-a-vis the new brands that have come up? Call them the D2C brands or whatever, but do you see a difference in the way they're
Before I answer that, I just want to touch upon the trust factor, okay? And this is a personal experience. When I'm buying a plane ticket, okay, and I go to the standard 3 or 4 websites, right, to be able to browse and see who's kind of get me the best price. There's a new parameter that I have seen, a new piece of information I have seen on, I won't mention the brand, but on one of those sites, which says the number of kilograms of CO2 consumed on this flight. Okay. And that actually, given that I am a person who's conscious of the environment and sustainability and stuff, immediately makes me take a decision that, okay, I think this makes sense for me. So I think the factor of trust in beauty, it would be different parameters. In meat, it would be different. But I think the key message maybe for anyone who's trading is basically your product. What does the customer, what's most important to the customer you need to know about, and then those parameters you should kind of be transparent and over communicate about. I think that's the key point on trust. So you were talking about the brands and how quickly they respond and all of that. So I don't think that there's a past way of responding and a present way of responding. I just think that there are brands that listen very well and respond, and there are those that don't, right? So I think speed of reaction has been fantastic in some cases. I mean, that's pretty much, I think, any brand that is conscious and listening. Well, I have an example of somebody who was actually listening to a customer in a physical store. And this is an example that I've seen. Somebody who came in and asked for a certain color of a scarf, okay, and did not get it. Similarly, another customer asked for another for a scarf of a similar color, and this brand coincidentally was listening to the customer. Okay, their store manager, for example, was listening to the customer, and this data got collected because they were listening in store and making notes of, okay, what do customers want? And sure enough, because this brand was listening, they actually said, okay, I think we need this color, and customers are asking for it, and then they went about doing it, and actually they managed to get some sales. So I think that's the point. It's about listening and being able to capture that piece of information at source. Maybe that's another factor on the listening. Capture it at source then and there, and then collect the data and be able to analyze.
So coming to that,
If I may add, I think in the beginning, in the introduction, just because you're on trust, I missed to say that I thought of it earlier. He mentioned RFID. Right? The one other thing that we can do as part of technology, especially on marketplaces, and again, I'm talking to my Amazon experience here, I think that can become a very, very big role because there is so much duplicate products in the market. And in things like phone and stuff like that, we've still cracked it because there's an IMI code and you can go back to it and things like that. In our technology, it's completely missing. How do you know which is an original WoW product? Because it's so easy to replicate a product. So I think there again, technology can play a very big role. If somebody can actually at scale solve this problem. Amazon is doing something, it's a transparency program and so on and so forth, but it's still extreme. It passes on the buck to the customer, to the brand to a large extent. That's another space, I think, where transparency and trust would really help because in our industry, in the beauty and personal care industry, duplicate products is a huge problem.
It's a huge problem.
It's a huge problem.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's a huge, very damaging problem, right? I mean, people really don't care whether it's a fake. But Anil, put all the technology in the place, right? Put all the technology in the world. But what matters is that final touch point. And when people are involved, that's a moment of truth. Right? So do you think it's important for the workforce also to be enabled in a manner to deliver that strategic initiative because of which you have that digital imperative out there? Consider a mall. Let's say it's a mall and you have a kiosk there and it is supposed to do something. And if there is someone who is helping the consumers do it and if that person is not capable.
For sure, I can bet my life on that, my 2 cents to it, everything, whatever you can call it, yes, for sure. That's one aspect which most of us just laid out. It's been considered to be there per se, right? People are customer-centric, yes. But employee-centric, so-called now that word called as EX and all of that, I think that should be taken care of in a more prominent way in all the organizations. Because finally, whatever you said, whatever you done, responding to someone or whichever brings in that 2-3 factors which brings in that good feel factor, I think the employee is always there. Right. The person who's replying is an employee, right? He should know what, he or she should know what the reciprocation of what he's trying to do or what she's trying to do, right? If I can write, depending on my mood, I can go on with whatever I can write onto that. It's just, I think it's more cultural, it's more trainings, and it's how your small activities which you do impact the larger ecosystem is something which we need to push way ahead now from just not talking to each other.
Correct. And what really warmed my heart yesterday was when we had we were having a conversation, and I'm not sure which room it was, kind of lost track of it. But we were having a conversation, and we had Amit, the head of e-commerce at Fossil. I'm not sure if he's here in the audience. And when we were talking about technology interventions, talking about customer experience, the Fossil watches obviously is a very high involvement category, right? Even the crown can make a difference between a watch being sold and not being sold. And he was categorical in the fact that the company invests a lot of time in educating both consumers as well as employees on anything new that happens, technology or otherwise, or processes. I think that's very crucial.
Just to add what Vikram was talking about, how the color of the name, it came from the employee, right? It came from the salesperson who was standing there. If that person is not given that ownership of bringing that back and sounding it back to the larger sounding boards, I think it would have gone down, right? That's what we are talking about.
Absolutely. So Rithish, what's new at redBus? What technological innovations are we looking at redBus, which will push the bar on customer experience higher and help build a brand in today's fast-paced world?
Okay. I could list out many, but on the back of the hand, 2 to 3 of them. So let's say, for example, a couple of months ago, and there was an incident, and basically we should have, it was a reactive feature that we built. But effectively, the idea was that we basically kind of built basically we have a call center number, so customers can reach out on that number. But then, of course, typical of an IVR, you go through that step of 1, 2, 3, and all of that, right? So what we basically built was that we kind of built a women hotline, right? Typically, the idea is that there are women travelers and travelers who travel in the night, and then safety of women is paramount, right? So the idea over here was that when a customer calls, and then based on the number, we are able to figure out as to whether it is an active booking, whether it is a traveler, and if this traveler is a woman. So it bypasses all the checks and balances and directly connects to the customer care, right? So to a executive, and we have a set of women executives who are there in the night, and basically they're connected to them, who can actually kind of empathize with the customer, right? So at the outset, in that sense, if you look at it, it's not like a technical innovation as such, but definitely it kind of really creates value, and then that kind of creates that emotional connect
Absolutely.
of customers with their brand, right? The other thing could actually be is that essentially bus travel and train travel is a lot more what you call the Next Bharat use case, right? So probably pretty much the other panelists over here are all flight bookers, but then the Next Bharat users are a lot more what you call not as tech savvy and not as English savvy. So there's a lot of intent that we are actually putting in, basically localization in the content. So there are 3 parts to it. So of course, basically if you kind of create a funnel, there is the discovery part, then there is of course the sales part, and of course then there is the post-sales, right? So when it's post-sales, there is basically the call center and all. So the localization, the call center is actually done. So basically we have a host of different languages that we actually support when customers actually call. The next piece, what we are trying to do is that essentially in the post-sale journey, let's say when you actually reach out through the bot, or when you come onto the Bus Buddy page and so on, which is actually localized in nature, which is effectively, a lot of content is actually static in nature, so it is easier to localize a lot. When I mean localizing into different languages, right? The next stage that we are actually doing is basically localizing the discovery part of it, so that we are actually kind of reaching out more to the consumer, so that they are able to kind of relate to the brand a lot more.
I think that's fantastic, Rithish, because if you're looking at accelerating the brand, accelerating the reach of redBus, that's very important. And you talked about localization. I was using the word vernacular yesterday, and one person in the audience corrected me and said, no, make it Indic ready. So are you guys Indic ready? I mean, okay, vernacular. So the stylish way of saying it is being Indic ready. That's wherever you are, you kind of take up the local language. So both the D2C brands, are you folks Indic ready?
So we work with the.
No, he was not able to.
I couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
So we work with vernacular influencers. So because our products, we were just in fact talking today. So there's Upton or there's aloe vera, which is a very north concept, and then there's Chandan and there's sandalwood, which is a very south concept. So when you are talking to your customers, you have to talk to them in their language. So as far as we're concerned, right now, it's limited to influencers. So we use vernacular influencers based on what product we are advertising. It could also be at what time we are advertising. So if it's a South Festival, we'll use vernacular influencers. Our website right now is not vernacular. We'll get there.
Perfect.
That's in the plan.
I've got a new concept now. Aloe vera meets turmeric. I'll use that later.
So
Yes.
yeah, so a lot of our communication today is, vernacular, and we ought to be, because our consumers are present across India, and coming with meat, people, what a product which is called X in south of India may be called Y in the north of India, right? So it's extremely important for us to be vernacular, and while our product front end today is not vernacular, but we try to be as vernacular as possible, maybe in the same language, but not in the native language. So we're getting there on the front end, but on the communication front, it works wonderfully.
So, and you believe, you're convinced that it actually helps in accelerating the Licious brand?
It does absolutely, because consumers relate with you much better. They feel much connected with the brand, right? Otherwise, consumers feel that you don't understand the category. So the moment these small interventions come in, the trust again starts to take place.
Absolutely. JP, coming to you. What are the innovations that you're seeing? I mean, you got couple of D2C brands. You got a travel .com, if I might say. Then you got a large group. You got a mall, huge mall group as well. What kind of innovations do you think you could?
So I'll start from Richa. So as you mentioned rightly,
It's not a sales pitch.
No, I never went in sales pitch. So it's so basically, I mean, starting from Richa's suggestion, there is a very good suggestion. I mean, a lot of people are not even thinking about that currently. There are a lot of duplicacy in the products, especially in healthcare and cosmetics and skincare products. So I think that can be minimized with the introduction of RFID, and there are some other technologies also, like you can put QR codes to scan it to know the exact number, or RFID. So this kind of things would be definitely going to be helpful. So basically what we are doing technological, so we are giving a complete visibility of your products, because as I mentioned before, currently all the brands are touching many points. It is completely omni-channel, right? So you need to understand what kind of product you should prepare, what kind of what is the right product in the right place, in short, right? So you should understand what is the inventory level you should maintain, location wise, what kind of, what should be your store inventory for one store. So you should have complete visibility. So that visibility will comes with the, with the technology what we are giving. I mean, kind of a, track and trace technology, like with barcode, with RFID. So we are also into, for malls, we are into self-checkout devices. So we have got a complete, kind of a RFID-based, barcode-based kind of product, which we are specially designed for Uniqlo and some other garment apparel brands. Not in India, but
you can start off here.
Yes, not in India, but I think in Korea and some other countries we have already done it. And for the kind of a D2C brands, or kind of a like a company like Licious, I think on we are already having kind of a solution for first mile, for last mile delivery, of warehouse management of systems, and kind of a for example for a deep analysis of the customer behavior with different kind of for the different regions. So this all different kind of solution we are giving with all our products. So I think this will be going to be helpful to escalate your brand value as well as your customer experience, I think, in both the ways.
Absolutely. And traceability is a part of your strategy already, or how is it at Licious?
What did you ask me?
Traceability.
Traceability, it is a part right now, but again, it is not completely tech-owned. But as far as we can, we are able to, trace our products and also communicate to the consumers. But as I said, it is not completely tech owned at present. But
Okay.
yes, because again, I'll speak about trust, right? So these are questions that consumers ask us. You know, where is this fish from? Where have you procured it from?
Right.
When have you procured it? So, you know, we're able to communicate back to them because we listen to our consumers and we, you know, are quick to respond back to them. But it's not yet, you know, completely linked from the back end to the front end.
Just to add in here, you know, as I've seen that like 95%, as I mentioned, companies already, you know, get into retailization. But as far as the different technologies they should use, it is not even 10% or 15%. So I think that acceptability should be there to, you know.
Yeah, adoption is a different ballgame altogether. We can spend a half a day discussing on adoption and how to mitigate those risks. But just a weird thought crossed my mind, Rithish. Maybe, you know, bands like the ones that you get when you get into amusement parks and all, right? Maybe would that work for a business like yours?
I don't know. I am not sure about that, but definitely, I mean, let's say, for example, there are a lot of POCs that we have actually tried. Let's say, for example, we want to count the number of passengers who are actually in the bus, right? So, I mean, if I can take an example, so we actually have something called we do a hackathon every year called a makeathon. And one of the ideas that was actually proposed and kind of was implemented this year was that basically it's about counting the occupancy inside the bus, right? So bus will actually have set number of seats. The idea was that essentially at the back of the seat, right, there would be a small chip. So essentially when you sit on the seat, and the chip will register saying that, okay, there is someone who's sitting on the seat. This is just to ensure that the operator basically is not sending a bus with less number of seats, where when occupancy can actually be sold. So those are probably things which actually can probably, I'm not sure about.
Yeah, it was just a weird thought because I was more thinking from a healthcare perspective, from someone who's got ailments and who's going to be on a bus ride for 8 hours, 9 hours, 12 hours. I don't know, right? Possibilities are endless. So was just letting my imagination go
put it that
wide.
way, probably yes. Why not?
Perfect. So we've come to the last part now, which is where I would need your inputs in terms of if a brand needs to grow at an exponential rate, because the historical rate of growth is not going to work anymore. Then we've got the entire e-commerce and the D2C ecosystem growing at a CAGR of about 20%. You can't afford to be just looking at a very nominal rate of growth. So for brands to actually take or adopt a hockey stick kind of a growth, what is that one thing that brands need to do from a technology adoption perspective, or even from a process adoption? It need not be just technology. But what is that one thing that brands need to do, and one thing that brands should not do? Because in all that eagerness to grow, we end up doing some mistakes, right? So anyone can start.
I'll since you started with tech, I'll probably
Sure.
I'll take a first shot at it. So I think one thing that brands and companies should definitely do a lot more. Probably they're doing already, but should do a lot more is probably experiment very fast, right? So the idea is that basically you try many experiments, you figure out as to what actually works, but you figure it out very, very quickly. That effectively means that, and to achieve that, you use whatever mode or whatever technologies that are possible. Whether it does not mean that essentially you actually have to kind of build it in-house. You either can actually kind of just use an existing tool which kind of allows you to do that experimentation, and then you kind of get the market feedback and then figure out, okay, whether you can actually kind of do the next stage, which you can probably kind of build, right? So that build versus buy is a necessary decision that you actually have to take, which actually helps you in experimentation, right? Should not do is probably sit on your laurels, right? So you should always be, I mean, as redBus, we are not too much worried about the next largest brand, which is actually kind of going to be killing us, right? So we are very much worried about the next gen internet startup, which is going to come in and kind of disrupt us. So we're not too much worried about the biggies, but we are very much worried about the smaller startups which can really disrupt us. So one thing that any brand should not do is basically sit on its laurels.
I'll go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I think one of the basic things which I'm not going to talk any fancy stuff that we need to do, okay, is basically just remove some of the irritants that customers face in day-to-day shopping. Okay, in our case, let's say a person comes into a store and does not find the size that they want. Now, given that we are an online and offline retail chain, make sure that the customer, if they're not able to find that size, then be able to offer it there and then, right? To him or her, and be able to deliver it fast. So I think that's one basic fundamental irritant that you're getting out of the way. The other thing is about, as I said, listening. So enable store staff, and Neil kind of alluded to that as well. Train them, make sure. So I think these are really important things. Enable your employee to listen. Listening to me is the single largest or most important thing.
So sort the small stuff and make sure that the employees are in a position to kind of manage the change.
And simple thing is, because Landmark's so good at the NPS and addressing NPS, we look at it every day for that matter, and then of course over a period of time as well. But the observations that I see is that customers are talking about, say, a damaged product reaching them in case of one part of the business. Products that are, maybe damaged essentially has been one of the factors. And, reacting to that and being able to address that issue quickly, that to me is the crux of the matter.
Fantastic.
Okay. So I think one thing which brands should adopt is, mimicking the offline experience into the online world, which is again, going consumer backward. So just to give you a very, very, broad example, meat being a perishable product, when you go to the offline butcher, if a particular, say, fish or a particular part of a particular, meat is not available, he'll always offer you something that is available, right? So something similar, experience in the digital world, needs to be created, which, that's where we are heading to, right? Along with this, I think media has become super expensive. So, building partnerships is extremely important at present. A lot of brands, look at vanity metrics of, creating, videos and creating, a lot of content which may not be relevant for the consumer, but it's vanity, right? So you would like to see, 10,000 likes on your page, but it may not lead to anything, towards your business. So, one thing that brands maybe should, avoid doing is, avoid vanity metrics. One thing that brands should look at is mimic the offline experience and build partnerships. And the last thing is that, be customer centric. So, for example, how many of us have, disabled notifications, push notifications from a lot of brands? I'm sure a lot of us, right? Because it's a lot of clutter. But how many of us have done that for WhatsApp? None of us, right? It's so relevant in our lives today. So we would not do that, right? So to be relevant in what communication, you're pushing to the consumer, to build your brand from there.
Got it. Point noted.
For all, sorry.
Go on, sorry.
So I think for all different kind of brands, as per, what I think, you may not be the first, but you can be fast, right? Which means you can be fast to adopt the technology. You can, by adopting different kind of technology, not only barcoding, because I am from barcoding or RFID side, that is one thing, but there are a lot of technology available in the world. So there should be used technology to, get maximum operational visibility, what I'm trying to tell you. So when they will have a operational visibility, they can make the customer experience better.
Absolutely.
So I think that is the most important thing for any brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, Richa, final words?
Just really quick. I think there's a huge responsibility with brands to use technology, but don't make clunky solutions. So, just my own personal experience, there are lots of things that are happening in the beauty tech space where you can apply a product on your face and also just whoever's using technology, if you really want to make leaps and bounds, be responsible that you have to solve for this country. So lots of times I'm seeing that people are building technology and you can actually apply a product, say, on your face, but it doesn't load on our bandwidths. So latency is a very important thing that one should. So all I'm saying is just be responsible. When don't tick a box that I am now digital enabled or I am enabling the customer. Be a little more responsible when you're making these solutions and solve for the country. We're a very unique country with very different bandwidths and stuff like that available. So that's don't do. The do, I think, for me is we use the word omni-channel and phygital I think, a little loosely. The experience for the end customer should be seamless. I should be able to buy online, return offline, buy offline, return on. It has to be more seamless. I was just at a brand 2 days back, and they have a website and they have an offline experience. But I was in their offline store buying a product which had like a series, like a long line. So I said, can I just scan using your website and pay? And they said, no, you can't. So you have to get into the line if you're in a physical store.
Wow.
So that I think is still very clunky in terms of calling yourself an omni-channel experience.
I think you should direct that brand to Decathlon because Decathlon does a fantastic job. By absolutely seamless. I mean, I went to Decathlon the last time around. I picked up stuff, paid, scanned with my phone, paid from my phone, walked out.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can't don't tick a box when you're saying you're omni-channel.
Absolutely.
I'm standing in your store. You're making me stand in the line.
That's a very important point. I mean, being at a physical store doesn't mean that you don't adopt digital or you don't adopt omni, right? Yes, Anil, final words?
Yeah, the statement is both negative and positive.
Sorry?
It's the statement which I'm going to make is both negative and positive, yeah? Do's and don'ts, both. Is let go. Let go your legacy system is okay to move out from that step. That's where you're being pulled back, right? So if you want to get into a customer journey and you want to make the experience, let go your legacy systems, right? Now, then that from a do perspective, don't hold on to such systems, right?
Absolutely.
That's precisely that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And one which I'm taking from the leaf of it is the employee experience. Get that. That will turn around your customer experience to the next level.
Absolutely.
Tech, yes, it's an enabler, right? But that person standing there, each one of us has an experience, right? When you talk to someone, that experience is something which you can't really make out from tech. It's more from trainings and culture.
Absolutely. So in fact, just round this off with an observation that I had as I was kind of researching on a few topics on this. And I came across multiple articles, right? And all these articles, some of them were very fancy. Some of them were about NFTs. Some of them were about metaverse. Someone was about how to target the younger audience and so on and so forth. But then there's this headline which says how Walmart is pursuing omni-channel profitability. And I was a little intrigued. I mean, Walmart, the largest in the world, probably the finest in processors, and they're excited about how they are pursuing omni-channel profitability. And how are they doing it? They have actually bought over a company called Alert Automation, which is a robotics company. They're retrofitting the fulfillment centers with a huge amount of automation through this company. So exactly going back to what you said, right, in terms of getting the small things right. There are multiple nodes of efficiencies that can be unlocked in your supply chain and demand chain as of now, even without kind of reinventing the whole wheel. And if you really want to reinvent the whole wheel, obviously there are technology partners to help you do that as well. So I guess that's about it. That's the time that we have. Any questions? Maybe one or two. We are already beyond 6. Any questions? No? Perfect. So thank you so much, folks. It was an absolute pleasure chatting up with you. And thank you for sharing your perspectives on how to build a brand in today's world. Thank you so much. Thank you.